What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Dewey in Scream 6 and talk about that David Arquette interview that maybe you guys have seen going around the internet. Now, there's a lot of, he has his personality and he seems like a really great guy. They talk about like resurrecting him from the dead. And while I think that's honestly pretty stupid that you'd even bring that up, I do think there's obviously the one possibility of him returning. But here's the thing. I think that happens in Scream 7. Doesn't happen in Scream 6. But we'll talk about that as this video goes on. Another time, I'll probably do this leading into Halloween, and then we'll stop there, seeing that it makes a good Halloween maybe gift. Those Ghostface cups. The link is in the description below. Let me show it one more time just in case you guys missed it. My wife did a great job on it. Links in the description if you guys want to click it, buy it. Like I said, I think it makes a pretty good Halloween-like gift. All right, now in terms of the David Arquette interview, like I said, it's good to see his response. We've kind of gone like on a whole saga with David Arquette with Scream 5 of, it seems like he's kept the story straight the entire time though, right? Where he is disappointed, his character's dead, but he's really, happy he was brought back in the first place. He's happy with what Dewey did in that movie. And then, the ending of that conversation shifts to, well, I think the interviewer says at some point, like, well, the Scream movies are kind of crazy, so you never know about, like, being resurrected. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess, like, Billy, I suppose. Billy is the only example you could use of a character. I guess Sidney's mom, like, in Scream 3. So I guess there's a few examples of, like, hauntings, basically. I don't see why Dewey would do that. To me, and we've said this before, we said this actually even when Scream 5 had just come out, the only way of doing it now is, well, I guess there's two ways. You could do a flashback, or you could do some sort of, like, a dream sequence. Now, personally, I think with Gale, is it possible you could get something with Dewey in Scream 6 with Gale? Yes, I think some sort of like dream sequence, like if you're thinking of Dumbledore and Harry in the final Harry Potter film or book, if you're thinking about it like that, obviously not happened before, and that maybe is kind of off-putting in the first place. It may not even work. That to me seems to make sense for like a 7th installment, the final kind of act. If you were to do it in 6, the only way to counter that is, well, if it's Gale's story. And that's kind of the interesting thing with 6 that I kind of go back and forth in my head on. The way David Arquette talks, the way that the entire thing was kind of filmed, it doesn't seem like he would return. But the odds, I almost feel, are kind of even with him coming back in 6 versus 7, 7 being the finale of this trilogy, and you'd assume Gale makes it that far, right? And the only reason I keep bringing Gale up is, as I've said, you get a flashback with him and her, so you still need her, and you probably need her alive in present day so you can make sense of a flashback. Even if she does, like like we talked about with Sam talking to Billy, I don't think that would ever happen, but if you did, you need one of them to be alive. Or you have some sort of, again, like a Dumbledore, Harry Potter, like a dream sequence where she's kind of working through something in her own life, and she needs to talk to Dewey. Again, I kind of like it the more I say it, but I also think it may not work. But in order to do that, again, I think you need one of them kind of alive. The Harry Potter thing is a little odd because technically he was dead at the time he talked and Dumbledore was dead, but it was inside his own mind. That was a little confusing, but for this situation, I do think Gale would need to be alive for it, right? So the biggest thing is if she makes it to 7, really all these options are still on the table, and I think it increases the odds, right? I think it increases the possibility that he would return. But seeing that this movie most likely is going to be pretty, not Gale-centric, I do still think Sam is the main character. Tara should be like the co-lead. It almost sounds like, though, it's Sam and Gale, and then Tara is kind of like third in terms of like the list of characters. So either way, Gale is a prominent force. You imagine she is going to be going through some grieving. And I do think, by the way, we will see like a visual of Dewey in 6. I can't imagine you go through the movie without it. Whether, we've talked about it before, something of like visiting his gravestone, that you would see his name. You wouldn't necessarily see like his actual face. Or, she's working on a new book or whatever. You would see it there. Or, if we're in her apartment, which we know that's going to play some sort of pretty okay part of the film, Gale's living space, we should, much like we saw with Dewey, we should see kind of throwbacks to other things. You see Gale, you see the mention of Tatum, right, where you see like the name carved. So you can get those things, right? And I think you could get the same thing here. I do think it would be very likely that Gale would have some sort of picture of her with Dewey, so we would see that in her apartment somewhere. So that's what I imagine. Again, is it, fun to talk about the idea of him being resurrected from the dead? I suppose. But if we're playing by the rules of Scream, very limited options you have there, right? And don't get me started with the Stu thing. Stu is kind of different. Even if they do bring him back, right, that would obviously be different. But I do think the odds of seeing David Arquette as an actor on the set, like performing as Dewey, I do think we will get that one more time. Even if it's like, actually one example would be like a Han Solo thing when he shows up to Kylo in episode 9 of Star Wars, something even like that, right? So I do think in some way we do see that character return. I think it's more likely for 7, but again, the more I talk about it, it could be 50-50. I just think because it's so close to 6, or I guess 6 being so close to 5, being that they were filmed so close together and really hasn't been all that much time, and David Arquette just kind of talking about it, it doesn't seem to me like he was there on set. I guess there's no way of proving that, right? But I feel like it would be more likely in that case in 7, but who knows? With what Gale goes through in this movie, it could happen. And again, really, you need Gale to survive, because if Gale's gone, if they kill Gale, number one, they're going to have a revolution to try to stop from the fans, rising up. But number two, you do eliminate, I think, I don't know how you do that. Does Sydney start hallucinating both of her friends going? But it doesn't really work for 7. So you really do need, if Dewey's not in this movie and you still want him in some sort of flashback, dream thing, whatever, you do need Gale to carry over. Otherwise, you'll see pictures, like maybe or a mention of the name, but you wouldn't see them in the flesh, acting as the role. You wouldn't see that if Gale's gone. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, buy the cup, description, links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.